welcome back. I want to talk to you about real estate prospecting. I wrote a book on it, Real Estate Prospecting. There you go. And I broke it down into 3 segments for you. And I wanted to go over that because I literally rewrote the book on real estate prospecting. It's not just about all the old school stuff like cold calling and door knocking, open houses. Those all work, by the way. They're great. I added another dimension to this. And when I broke down the book into these 3 segments, I really wanted to highlight them for you so you can understand what you need to focus on to succeed at the highest level in this business, because we've seen one thing definitely happen lately is the playing field is dramatically changing all around you. And you've got to be equipped with the right things to do to connect with people. And so the very first section of the book, I talk about the fundamentals. I actually have part 1, and part 1 all revolves around your routine. Your routine. What do you wake up doing? What do you go to sleep doing? What's in the middle of the day? How are you keeping your mind, your work focused so you have priorities that you actually focus on throughout the day? Probably the biggest challenge, and you can hear the word mindset, you can hear words like affirmations and encouragement and all of these great words, but the key to success in anything that you do is making sure that you take those little action steps daily that get you where you want to get to. And I don't know about you, but I don't always feel like showing up. There are some days that are tougher than others. And if I'm not careful and I focus on how difficult that day, that week is, I don't do anything. And so I designed my days so that I have less of those. I designed my hours, my mornings, afternoons, and evenings so that I could have a better success. Will you still feel like crap some days? Yeah, you're going to. I certainly do. But when you're looking at this and you say, hey, this is what my evening should include. This is what my morning should include. You start looking at it differently. And I would say there are core pieces to that. And I put them in the book, but in the evening, you should be planning for the next day. You should actually know what you're doing so you know how to show up, right? It's important. And you should also give yourself permission to embrace the day, the next day, and saying, hey, you know what? I'm embracing tonight. I'm done. I can only do so much because there's just so much to do and I'm never going to catch up. So I'm going to embrace tonight and embrace the fact that I have another day. Hopefully, I have another day, and I'm going to now work on me the rest of the day, the rest of the night. I'm going to be with my family, do things that fill my cup outside of work. In the morning, when you wake up, you're like, got it. I know what I need to do. Always be learning, creating opportunities for your mind to absorb great new things. Movement, right? Motion creates emotion. All of that. That's in part 1. Part 2. Part 2, I call Show Me the Money. We have to talk about the money. And in that, I talk about the HOP method, HOP, right? Online lead generation, which is that's my jam right there. Social media, another one of my great jams. Your database, farming, closing clients with client events, open houses, door knocking, cold calling, networking, all that stuff. And the difference is that although we talk about it, I include a lot of technology in there. I include a lot of different approaches that are working in our current business. I worked with some of our clients, but the key has been that we've been able to scale it and connect with people more by using more sincere automation. Looking at the tech that's out there and using that tech to support what we already do great. That's what a lot of us don't do. We see this amazing tool over there and we're like, I need that. That looks awesome. Wait, there's that over there too. I'm actually pretty good. I'm going to add that. And that's what we end up doing throughout our whole career. and we kind of have mediocre success, and that's where we stop. So there's where I want you to focus on. If you're great at client events, how can you use technology? How can you use AI to help you scale this? To help you send out the letters, the text, building up to the event, to do a better job on social media promoting it. And then during the event, how can you do a much better job by having technology involved through QR codes, signups, text at the event, competitions, keeping track of all the surveys? Think there's a lot more you can do if you put the technology in place that can support your strengths. That's the key, right? And then the last part I have as part 3, I have conclusion, which, I mean, makes sense, right? In there, I talk about your priorities, the process, building a virtual staff, building a real estate team in the future of real estate. I think for that one, the key would be to focus on the process. And I call the process really the ability for you to focus on one thing at a time that is your strength. So let's say in the process, you chose 50 closed transactions. Tristan, I want to close 50 closed. I want to close 50 in a year. Then we're going to say, well, what are your strengths? I've got a great sheet for this, by the way. If you need it, just message me. I'll send it over. It's called the process. 50 transactions. And then I'm like, well, what are your 3 strategies that are based on your strength? Strength-based. I'm like, well, Tristan, I have a strong database. And when I reach out to them, they're so good to me. I'm like, great, database is 1. Tristan, I'm really good on social media. I'm like, really great. What part of social? Well, I'm really good on Facebook. I'm like, all right, Facebook's number 2. And I go, what would be the 3rd one? Well, Tristan, I'm pretty good at events, but I'm more so on one-on-ones. I'm like, great. Well, there you go. You've got your 3. Now let's build those out with action steps, because each one of those actions that supports the strategy gets placed into the calendar. And as you finish those actions, they get crossed out and you put more actions. See, the key to your success in the process is focusing on the small things that move the needle over time. It's not quick success like we're exposed to on social media all the time. It's a slow process that builds over many years. And if you do this right, if you do this well, and you show up for yourself on the priorities that are your strength, that's where you succeed. That's where you start building a career out of this. And if you want to dive in deeper, pick up the book, Real Estate Prospecting. You could always jump into abrillianttribe.com. That's our group coaching for new agents, mega agents, teams, brokers. We got you covered there. If you found this successful, if you found this useful, share it with somebody else. Hope it helps, and hope I gave you a good breakdown of real estate prospecting.